What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Switch Up Sports with Mighty Q coming to you on a Sunday. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube, and Rumble. And today, the message I'm bringing, it's going to be kind of a two-parter. So, first being, what is an athlete? And the second, why you should leave your hometown. So, those are the two main topics that I'm going to be getting into today. I'm not really going to beat around the bush too much. I'm going to try to be a lot more cut and dry with today's episode. It's going to be pretty straightforward, and for some of you, it might be a little bit too direct to the point where you're either going to be upset or you're going to understand the message that's behind that means more than me just being direct. So if you're going to get your feelings hurt, then fuck off. I don't really care. If you hear the actual message and know the point of the message, then that's what truly matters. So let's get into it. So first being, what is an athlete? So for me, an athlete is someone who is able to play multiple sports, not just like, oh, I can go and do this, or, I'm kind of that, like my biggest one is like I'm gonna exclude a lot of things. So for a lot of people, they're like, oh, like powerlifting is the shit. I'm like, powerlifting is not, like, yes, it's a sport, but it's training. Like I give a lot of credit to powerlifters because all they're doing is lifting, like all they're doing is working out. So like, I'm not saying that they're not athletes, but it's like any person who plays any sport can do powerlifting essentially, because it's like you go to the gym, you lift weights. So if you got really addicted to lifting weights, you can go do powerlifting. Like that's all powerlifting is. It's like it's athletes that just got addicted to the training side. And for a lot of people, like, yeah, that's great. But I'm not about to sit here and say, oh, you're some phenomenal athlete because you can go and lift weights. Like, no, you were normally an athlete before. And the reason you do powerlifting is because you got addicted to the training side of lifting weights. So it's like, that's my reasoning behind like being an athlete and whatever. It's doing sports and being athletic, and how athletic are you doing different things? Like offensive linemen, a lot of them, to some degree, there's a lot of guys who are strong and they're got phenomenal footwork and they know exactly what they're doing, and those are the guys you see in the NFL. Like those are the guys that you see that make it to the highest and the highest level. But at the same time, there's a lot of guys that are just essentially big, they got slow feet, they're just strong, and they're able to just kind of bully there in the trenches, and that's needed for football. Again, but it's describing them in terms of an athlete. It's like, okay, well, you're 6'6", and are you able to dunk a basketball? Well, if you can't, well, there's kind of some issue there. It's like, well, I'm 315 pounds. It's like, okay, well, I know a lot of guys that are that big that can dunk a basketball. So let's go to that credit. So I look at it as an athlete and being athletic are like two different things. Being athletic means that you have skills of being an athlete, but it's not necessarily as like one encompassing of like, oh yeah, that's not like. And my only reason for like sitting here and saying this, and like a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, it's whatever, like what have you done? It's like all I've done is played sports my entire life, and to the degree of I don't really go into off season to train. When I was a kid, like I grew up and primarily like I've wrestled. So like I've wrestled now for 14 years. I played football for, I don't know, close to 10 years. I don't think it's that much. It's like 8 years or something like that. Either way, it's a lot. I played baseball for a lot of years. I played golf for a lot of years. Now lifted for a good amount of years. Like there's all these different things that I've done for a long time. And then there's a lot of other sports that filled in there where it's like, the only reason I did that sport was because another sport went into off season. And so I feel like I gained more skills by going and playing a different sport than just training for one sport. Like when football goes in off season, like most football players just go and lift, and that's all they do. Like they lift and eat and get ready for next season, which to that credit is important. But for me, it's like, well, when I was a kid growing up, it's like I went from football to wrestling. And then from wrestling, and that's normally about when track season was, and then track and baseball kind of blended together, and then football kind of came in there as well. So it's like, I just like went from one sport to the next because I felt playing sports, and I liked playing sports more than anything else, and like I still do it to this day. So it's like I play volleyball, and right now, so like right now I'm in the off season for football, and like I've got an all-star game in Vegas here in 3 weeks, 3.5, 4 weeks. So am I getting ready for that? Yes, but I'm also training for MMA. So like MMA encompasses a lot of different things. You have to be a boxer, you got to be a kickboxer, you got to be able to wrestle, you got to be able to throw it. Like there's so many things that goes into being a good MMA fighter, and that's more the encompassing thing. It's like you look at the best MMA fighters. It's like, why are they so good? It's like, well, they're a great boxer. They know how to kick. They know how to throw elbows. They know how to throw knees. They can wrestle, and they can submit somebody. It's like, well, that's 6 different skills. 6. So if you're playing football and you go, well, I can run really fast, it's like, okay, that's fine. How do you guard running really fast? You throw 2 deep high safeties or 3 deep. That's all you have to do. You just play deep. You keep everything in front of you, and you can shut down speed because you know that person's going to run through windows that messes up the timing. Tyreek Hill is a phenomenal athlete, but there's a reason you can stop him to some degree. It's like you can either keep him short and kind of like rally to the ball and contain, or you say, fuck the underneath shit. We're just not going to get beat on the one play shit. And that's the one thing that the Ravens didn't do a couple weeks ago. The Ravens got beat on 4 different deep plays. It's how Alabama got beat yesterday. They didn't understand the concept. They were keeping their safeties at 12, and they weren't backpedaling. They weren't trying to play deep. They weren't trying to make sure that they were the deepest man on the field. They just got beat because guys just ran past them at full speed. And speed is necessary, but are you able to run a clean route? Do you have good hands? Are you then have agility to make guys miss? Are you strong enough to break tackles? Are you strong enough to run through tackles? Are you strong enough to get hit and not have to go to the sideline because you're hurt and like, oh, my ribs are sore, oh, that was a big hit, oh, it knocked the wind. Like, it takes all these different skills, and when you combine all those different great skills together, oh, next thing you know, you're at the highest level. Because Tyreek is able to do all those things. He runs crisp routes. He's the fastest guy in the league. He's strong enough to, if he does happen to get kind of hit or hit off the line, he's able to still get past it. He makes a lot of guys miss because of his agility. He contains a bunch of different skills that make him an athlete. He's not just fast. And it's like, how do you get all these other things? Well, you can go lift, you can go run, you can train and do certain other things, but being an athlete is so much more than just, oh, well, I can run fast, or, oh, well, I'm good at this one thing. It's like, no, you need to be good at multiple things, and understanding the process to get there, that's an important factor. So I don't really want to like dive too deep into, and give 1,000 different examples, but basically I've always looked at being an athlete is being able to be phenomenal on and off the field, and you are able to acquire different skills by going and doing different things. So you're learning better jumping mechanics because you're spending time with high jumpers, and then you're doing triple jump, and then at the same time you're getting different cardio endurance and learning different footwork from soccer players, and then you're taking that same skills and you're going to the football field, and it's working in a team. Not only working in a team, it's also toughness. And then you're going to, every sport has their one thing that is like a little bit better and they get an edge versus another sport. Like, I'm not about to sit here and say that football players aren't as tough as hockey players, because like, yes, they're both very tough, but it's like they both go through the same things. But you can look at a basketball player and go, well, you're not really going to get toughness from playing basketball. Like, it's just true. Like, basketball has a lot other skills that make you really good, and toughness, not really one of them. Like Steph Curry has gotten tougher over the years, but like when he first came in the league, not really that tough. And being an athlete is just being able to acquire different skills. And I'm sick of the one-dimensionalness, and to the same degree, like I'm kind of annoyed and upset at a lot of different people, because it's like, okay, well, I'm sitting here today. I'm a semi-pro football player where I'm a 3-time league all-star in 2 seasons, because I made all-star at 2 different positions. I am currently training for MMA. I wrestled for 14 years in which I accumulated, numerous different amount of accolades, ranging from national titles to national appearances in college to becoming an All-American in college. And I mean, like, there's just a lot of different things that you can go with that in there. It's like in that cheered in college. I was on scholarship for golf my freshman year. I was a top 20 amateur in 2020 for golf in Dallas. So it's like, I've got a lot of these different things. So like when it comes to like being an athlete, like I played multiple sports and continue to play multiple sports and I achieve in multiple sports. So it's not like, oh, well, it's this, that, and the other. Like I'm going to put this in a little bit better perspective because this is how kind of annoyed I am to the point. Roughly 2% of college athletes are on scholarship. So I was in part of that 2% being a scholarship athlete at Lewis University playing golf. So there's only a select amount of people that I forget. I mean, it ranges anywhere from like 1% to, I want to say the highest that I've seen is like 10% of, like, depending on which sport in high school, either 1% or 10% of those athletes that play in high school then play in college. So it's like, okay, well, I'm part of that 1 to 10%, depending on the sport, if you look at what I've done in college. Well, okay, well, golfing in college, there's only so many people that transfer from high school golf to college golf. And then I wrestled in college, there's only so many people that decide to wrestle after high school and do it then in college, and I'm now doing it even more with training for MMA and doing all the other stuff that goes with that. To then go, okay, well, I also have now played a couple mini tour events with golf. So not only was I on scholarship, I'm then part of the even smaller group of the people that played in college that then transitioned to try to play professionally. That's an even smaller group of people that is another exclusive bunch. Then we go to football, and it's like, well, there's a select amount that played in high school that then got smaller that played in college. So I didn't join that group, but I then am playing with people who went through high school, college, and have decided they want to keep playing. And the vast amount of people that I know that I play with, both on my team and on other teams that are across the league, they either played at JUCO, a D1, a D2. They're normally smaller D1s. There's a handful of guys in our league specifically that did play in the NFL. And then there's a lot of guys that have played arena, and there's a lot of guys that have played overseas. But it's like, it's filled with different professional levels of football. And it's like, not that many people play in these different leagues. That is a select grouping of people because their skills are that much higher even of those in college, because not everybody that plays in college is good enough to play in the pros of any level, whether it's arena or not. And yes, there's a tier system to pros and whatever that may be. And it's like, okay, well, being a 3-time All-Star in two years, and I've got other game accolades that came from different bowl games where I was playing against both pro guys and college guys and was defensive MVP in both of those games. So got it there in football too. And for me, sitting here and saying, oh, well, I'm a good athlete, I'm whatever, like, I don't really give a shit about that. But the thing that I care more about is because, like, I'm chasing the next thing. And so it's like, I've done a lot of stuff in my past. And so that's kind of now why MMA is a big thing for me, because there's a very select amount of people that make it to the MMA. The MMA is fielded of 15 people per weight class that are ranked. Yes, there's other guys that have contracts and there's other whatevers, but there's 15 guys ranked. And those are the guys that primarily get the fights. So to make it into the UFC, that is a tall task order because it is for the world. And so that's why I'm sitting here, because I think I'm a great athlete. I think that I've achieved enough already in my athletic career to this point, but I don't care about that because it's in the past. And it's like, I can't go back and change any of that stuff. Now, do I think it's cool to kind of think about now at this point? It's like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. With sports, there's a bigger idea and a bigger picture, because a lot of that stuff in the past has made me now where I am today. But there's a different set of skills that are going to be required for me to be successful in MMA. That's the reason why I'm going to go and I'm going to try to be in MMA, and I'm going to try to make it to the UFC, and I'm going to try to be part of that top 15 guys in the world at that weight class. At that point, hey, I'll be able to deem myself successful, and you know what, I'll be able to put a notch in that, put a check mark for that plan and that goal. It's not that I'm not going to be an MMA fighter, it's what level I'm going to eventually get to. And you know what? I'm saying that I'm going to get to the UFC, so I'm going to do everything in my power to get to the UFC. I got a lot of years to be able to get to it. And I'm going to use all the skills from all the different sports I played growing up. And going forward, that's where we're going to get to. So that's what I think an athlete is. An athlete is someone who has just an amassed amount of skills and is able to do a lot. And I think that I've done a lot and will continue to do a lot. And we'll see from here. That's kind of what we got. We'll just see from here. So the other point that I wanted to get into today was why you should leave your hometown, or why you should leave whatever place that you've been in for a long time. So for me, like, I'm now currently living here in Fargo, North Dakota, and I was born in Chicago, grew up in Frisco, Texas, essentially, and I spent most of my time there. And I now live in Fargo, North Dakota, and it was kind of on a whim on coming out here. Like, it's not like I had some predetermined plan of, oh, I'm going to come and move to Fargo, North Dakota. Like, there was one person I knew when I lived here, and that person was someone who I spent 9 months with as a teammate of mine in college. So it's not like, it's anything that big or that grand, but getting out of your hometown gives you a sense of either you're moving to a place where no one knows you, which is most likely, or you're moving to a place where a small handful of people know you, and that small handful of people either really like you and you feel a great connection with them and they're really good friends and that's the reason why, or you're moving to a place where no one knows you and you're able to essentially start anew. Every town is the same. Fargo is the same as Frisco. The only thing that changes is the weather. And to that degree, the weather doesn't stop me from doing shit around here. Like, yes, it snows, yes, it gets cold, yes, it does that. So, like, do I stop doing stuff outside? Yes, but I still travel and go to other places. It's like, if I want to go play golf in January, well, most of the country I couldn't play golf in January or February or March for that matter. But there are certain places in the country that if I wanted to, I could go. Or I could take the other route that they have available where you do stuff inside. It's the same for summer. There's certain things you don't do outside when you're in Texas in the middle of summer that you decide to do inside, or you go to some other place to do that thing. Getting out of your hometown, like, all your mistakes that you made, all the things that you've said to a lot of people, like, no matter how long you're in a place, you meet a lot of people. Whether you think you do or not, I mean, you can just think about however many people you went to high school with, or however many people that you've then met at the college if you stayed where you were. So it's like, okay, well, you think about all the people that were in your classes. Then think about all the people that are on campus that you interacted with. Think about all the people that were in your dorm that you interacted with. Other people that were on campus that you interacted with. You meet a lot of people, and of all those people that you meet, they all see you at different times of the day. They could think that you're a huge asshole. They could think that you're someone that they want to be around a lot, and they eventually find out more about you. They can think that someone in that specific span of time, you were a pretty cool person. They think you're a cool guy. They're going to talk high praise of you. Or it ends up being a situation where it's like, I don't really think too much of them. Or it's even worse where they're like, oh, I fucking hate that person. That's why you should move out of your hometown. Like, if you feel, oh, this place is nothing for me, you feel so upset and so dragged and so bogged down, well, how about you get around and get out of the place where all the people around you hate you? There's something to that. If all you have is negativity around you, you've got a couple different ways to cut out the negativity. Either you stop talking to those people and still see a lot of the same people and still get the same judges, or you just go, I'm just going to go and not be around any of these people. You just get up and leave. No one is stopping you from leaving. You can make whatever excuse you want to make about, oh, well, I don't think I can go here, or I shouldn't go here, or I couldn't do this. Guess what? The same jobs that most of the jobs that are offered in whatever place in town that you live in will be offered to some degree in a different town you live in. That's just the nature of the beast. Like, everyone's so caught up in, oh, I don't know if I can or not. Like, just go. Like, I'm sitting here now in Fargo and I'm like, I'm so happy I moved. I'm so happy I moved. And there's going to be times where it sucks, and I'm not about to sit here and say it's sunshine and rainbows the whole way through. Like, no, there's a lot of times where it really sucks. And it's difficult at times. There's times where, hey, is this the right, but in the grander scheme, what does it matter if I lived here or if I lived somewhere else? For most people, if you eat fast food is available in most places. You're not going to miss out on your McDonald's. You're not going to miss out on your Burger King. You're not going to miss out on your Wendy's. You're not going to miss out on your Starbucks. Well, depending on which place. Sometimes it changes from Starbucks to Dunkin' to Caribou to whatever the fuck it is. There's giant chain shit everywhere, which is why every town in America is essentially the same. It's just dependent on which size and which climate you want to live in. If you want to live on the beach, well, guess what? You can take your pick. We have 2 oceans that you can live on. You can live on the West Coast and live in 3 different states all along the ocean front. You have numerous different states on the East Coast side where you've got all the different states that have all the different beachfront property. And then you also have a Gulf, which you've got 4 different states that have access to. There's your option if you want to go move somewhere that you're on a giant body of water. Okay, there you go. You've got all those states to choose from. If you want to move to a lake, well, guess what? There's a lot of fucking lakes in this country. Go pick one. Not that tough. And too many people will sit here and make every fucking excuse in the book the reason why they don't want to move someplace or they don't want to do something. Like, to my credit here, like I've said that I wanted to fight MMA 2 years ago, and I'm just now starting it. Do you know how much better I would be as an MMA fighter if I started 2 years ago? I had to do the same shit anyways. The beginning is the beginning. You just have to start. The only difference between knowing it now and versus knowing it in the past is how early did I start? The reason I'm such a good wrestler is because I've got 14 years of experience of actually doing it, and even more experience of now watching and now everything else that goes along with it. When do you start? That's all it is. It's literally, when do you start? Like, I gave all this anxiety to some degree of like, oh, like, I don't know if I want to do this, or I don't know if this is the right decision. It's like, it is the right decision. All you have to do is fucking start. There's nothing that you can't do. The only thing that you are doing is you're continually telling yourself, I can't do this, because you're making up X amount of excuses of the things that you know are going to happen along the way. Me being an MMA fighter, I'm going to get hit in the face. It's going to take X amount of hours of training. It's going to take me cutting weight. It's going to take me not eating these things. It's going to take me doing these things daily. I knew all of those things going in. Did I change any of them 2 years ago? No. I'm sitting here now 2 years removed. Did that time not pass? That time went on. I'm sitting here now. That time passed anyways. But what did I do? I didn't do anything. Now, I'm not saying I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything MMA purposely. I played football, and I trained and I lifted weights and I did all that other stuff. So it's not like I'm not athletic at this degree. It's like not like I sat on the couch for 2 years doing nothing. But the skills that I have right now would be so much greater if I started then. Now, I'm not going to say that I'd be either a better or worse athlete, because like that you can rank that around wherever. Like, I think I would be a better athlete because of the training that involves MMA versus the football training, but that's different conversation, different argument for a different day. All I'm saying is you just have to do it. And it really starts with moving out of your hometown. If you move away from the people that are constantly negative around you, because the reason that a lot of people don't start a lot of things is they talk to someone that's close to them, and then that person that's close to them gives them another excuse on why they shouldn't do it, because we're all our biggest enemy. Inside of us, we're our biggest enemy, and we use other people's voices for the reason not to do stuff. You tell something, to someone that's close to you, they give you a negative reason and an excuse why you shouldn't do something. You take that excuse, you internalize it, you change it because it's something that they said that you already knew was the truth. You then change it and make sure that it's said constantly from their voice in your head, and now it's their fault, and that's how you can make it, oh, well, I didn't do this because of XYZ reason. It's like, no, you didn't do it because it's your decision not to do it. It's my decision to sit here and talk into this microphone and look at this camera and give you a reason and say, hey, you should move from your hometown. Because in my hometown, I said a lot of things to a lot of people who gave me a lot of negative fucking ideas, and I took those negative ideas and excuses and kept them in my head and told them to myself, so I never got started with any of the shit that I wanted to do. Everyone has a lot of big ideas that they could be doing today. You have the willpower. If you thought of it, if you thought of the idea, you have the skills to start today on gaining more knowledge on what you want to fucking do. Period. I wanted to start this podcast and did start this podcast years ago, but I didn't really do it as strong as I should have done it. I shouldn't have done I didn't do a lot of the actual work because I kept giving myself excuses on why I wasn't doing the work. So I'm sitting here now making sure that I'm going to do the work. And you know what? It started with getting away from the people that constantly gave me negative fucking ideas. That's step one. Getting away from the negative excuses externally only helps you internally, because you don't get the external voices telling you negative stuff all the time, that then your negative self-talk comes out and goes, hey, listen to what all these people are telling you. It's a negative idea. You shouldn't do it. It's like, no, there's 5 people telling you negative shit when 5,000 people out there want the positive thing that's in your head. 5,000 is relative. Really, it's 7 billion. It's all it is. It's negative self-talk that the people around you feed into because they tell you negative stuff and your self goes, yep, look at that. They make sense. They're so right. They're so right. I can't do this. That's all it is. So either 2 things. 1, move out of your hometown. Like, paying for rent is paying for rent. You know what? You can find a lot other places that will probably actually be cheaper than the place that you live in with a town that's whatever. So like moving from Frisco to Fargo, rent was actually cheaper. You know what? It actually saved me money. There's a lot of places like Fargo across this entire country where you're in a big populated area. You have all the fun utilities that you would of a normal town, but yet you're not making a decision to go because you want to live this high class fancy lifestyle thinking that you're the shit, paying for an expensive ass apartment in some place that you fucking hate, doing a job that you hate because you know that you have other ideas, but you're not strong enough to go do those ideas. Like I said, for some people, they're going to hate this message and they're going to think that I'm just this big asshole and they probably already turned it off. But for those of you that actually are hearing the message and understand the message of what's going on, there is a lot more that you can do. And sitting and learning helps. Actually going and doing is stronger. You need both of them. You need a little bit of the pre-learning to understand a pathway. And from that pathway, you then figure out your own. Someone's like, you can find a lot of people that'll cut down a lot of trees and will pave a way for you so far into a forest. But from that point forward, it's your job to go cut down the rest and figure out your own path. Like, I've got numerous amount of business ideas that I can sit here and I can tell someone to be able to go make $100,000 a year, but a lot of people wouldn't even take the advice because they don't want to stop doing they don't want to stop living the lifestyle they're living for 6 months for the, years forward of unlimited gratitude. So someone who's making, $40,000 or $50,000 a year, who would have to live like they were making $20,000 a year for 6 months, doesn't want to then take those 6 months of like pain and suffering to double and triple their income to the level that would make them and that's where like happiness is relative, because it's like making $100,000 would make a lot of people happy. It would make a lot of people miserable. The money aspect, it's like the money isn't what makes you happy. It's like achieving something is what makes you happy. And so that's like the reason why for a lot of people it's like, okay, well, $100,000 just sounds good. Like it's just a good round number. Like for most females, like they want a guy who makes $100,000 because to them, like that's what's conceivable. They're like, oh, $100,000 should pay for a house. It should pay for me to go get my nails done. It should pay for my hair to get done. It should pay for food. It should pay for us to go out. It should pay for us to travel. Like they think all in their head. It's like, okay, like $100,000, sure. There's like an umpteen amount of ways to make $100,000. Kind of crazy, actually. You can sell one thing for $100,000 and just break down the math and just do it behind that. It's the same thing for $1 million. There's that aspect, but it's then again breaking it down into smaller chunks. It's like for a lot of people, oh, $100,000 sounds crazy. Well, what sounds even crazier? It's like, okay, well, how about working at the same job and getting a marginal increase and not ever acting out the ideas that you're in your head and continually be miserable and living a life that you could be living that's different, but yet you don't do it because you think it's not going to happen because the people around you tell you it can't happen. Well, guess what? Those people around you think it can't happen because they're doing the same thing. They're not achieving to their potential that they think either. So, as I said, either move out of your hometown and get away from the negative people that way physically, or just cut them off to the point where they can't get to you. You can live in the same place and really not even change. You can just change what you're doing and just cut off the people that are negative in your life and make it that way. There's that route of doing it too. So I hope this was able to help. I know it's like semi-rambled and got aggressive to some point, but it's just like I'm mad and frustrated about it. And like you heard when I was saying about the MMA thing, like I'm sad and frustrated because like I knew these things, like I knew them years ago. Like I'm not about to just sit here and say that like, oh, this was just like, oh, I was just sitting here and it just popped into my head. Like I've known this shit for years. Like I've been miserable for years. Yeah, I was working at Capital One, and like I'm not about to sit here and say that I wasn't making good money. Like as a 20-year-old, I was making too much money, at like relatively, like compared to most 20 and 21-year-olds. Like I could essentially do whatever I want. Like I had essential full freedom to some degree, like without the reins of like Capital One and like, oh, like you have to be here on this X amount of days, blah blah blah, like vacation hours. Yeah, like there's still workarounds even to that degree. Like you can travel most weekends and get a lot done in 2 days and see a lot of the world. You can see a lot of close things with taking marginal time off from work. That's a different conversation. I'll get into that on a different day. But I'm just sitting here saying I've been frustrated for a long time, and I've known a lot of these things for a long time. And so the fact that I'm now actually implementing them, because I've known that if I would have implemented them before, that it would have worked. So just do it. Don't be frustrated. Like for a lot of you, if you've sat here and you're like, oh, I had this idea and it's been X amount of years and I don't know, just go do it. You have the knowledge to get it done. And you're going to be more upset after you get started, because once you get started, you're going to go, oh, this isn't that hard, or oh, this is something that is going to breeze past, and you're going to set an even loftier goal. So move out of your hometown, continue to gain skills, and just go after it. And that's really all I got to say. Just don't be so frustrated with yourself once you get to the point of realization of, oh wow, it really is that easy. Just take those internal thoughts that are positive and continuously listen to those, and the ones that are negative, understand that they're there and they're always going to be around, but just don't take them into account. Simple as that. So, all right, guys, that's it for me. I will catch you guys on the next one. I'm going to try to record one more this week, and then we'll see you guys next Sunday for the next. So, Mighty Q, I'm out of here. Peace.